Are the Cardinals overvaluing their top trade piece in the market right now? Ken Rosenthal tends to think so. Thanks for tuning into the St. Louis Cardinals Daily podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher. I'm going to cover that today, as well as some other updates on the Cardinals trade market, and additionally, the absolute nightmare that is happening right now. The Cardinals did not expect at all regarding our broadcast coming up this season. Starting first with that Ken Rosenthal article regarding Brendan Donovan. So The Athletic, and specifically Ken Rosenthal, put out an article every so often that is a bunch of little tidbits that he's been hearing around the league. Some of it's stuff he's hearing, some of the stuff he may have grabbed from other places, a lot of stuff that would just be like tweets in themselves, throws in one article, and offers some great insights. And in one such piece of that article, he talks about Brendan Donovan, which shows you one thing, that Brendan Donovan is a significant part of this offseason, and we're not overplaying this, but he does think maybe Chaim Bloom is overblowing Donovan's value. Rosenthal is quoted saying it comes down to a difference in perceived value. The Cardinals view Donovan as a star player, while not all clubs see him that way, according to people briefed on the conversations. So these are people who are getting in on conversations, the insiders, the execs leaking stuff, and I'm guessing they're coming away from trade conversations with Bloom saying that guy is just valuing him way over what he's actually worth. And Rosenthal goes on to point out that there's other players in this market that have a higher WAR even than Brendan Donovan. Significantly, Nico Hoerner of the Cubs has been a name dropped. His WAR was well over what Brendan Donovan's was last year, and so is Ketel Marte's. Both guys have been mentioned in the trade market, but the Cardinals are apparently acting more like he's the only option out there. And it's yet to be seen that he's not. Frankly, Ketel Marte is expected to not be traded at this point. Their GM has said as much. He has not put out an official statement saying that he's off the market, but he said he's closing this thing soon, and he's expecting to keep Ketel Marte. That leaves just Nico Hoerner. And while the Cubs look like they're adding pieces and not getting rid of big league talent. So I'm going to push back on what Rosenthal's hearing a little bit. Not that he's lying and that I know more than Ken Rosenthal. I'm just thinking that it's not as relevant as it might be in terms of actually realizing a Brendan Donovan trade. And why I'm saying that is those guys that are also out there in the market are just might not be there anymore. Nico Hoerner and Ketel Marte might not be pieces that will be traded. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that changes. But from what we're hearing and based on moves being made by the Cubs and the Diamondbacks, they're trying to win. They're not trying to trade off pieces like the Cardinals are. So even though Donovan isn't being perceived as highly by some execs, I think some execs are going to view him higher. Now, I'm not going to reject the fact that probably this is what's having some delay, and the guy who clearly has allegedly had over half the league, upwards of 20-plus teams. I think the highest number I saw was 22-plus teams want Brendan Donovan. Well, they all want him. The issue is, and the reason he hasn't been traded yet for everybody's top prospect is because they don't view him as highly as Bloom does. Not all of them. And you need that demand to drive value. I mean, simple economics. I got a C in economics. I learned that much. And that's the issue that's happening right now for the Cardinals. They're demanding a lot, and teams are saying he's not worth it. We only need one team to say he's worth it, though. We only need one team to say, yes, fine, take it. And so I'm not going to act delusional and say he is better. Objectively, his stats were worse than other guys, other second basemen. He's not the best second baseman in baseball. But he's probably the best second baseman, middle infielder available via trade at cost. He's only going to make like $5 million next year, guys. He's ARB eligible for the next 2 years. That's why I think his value is still going to stand, and I don't think this is actually going to matter. But it explains why the guy who's had everyone wanting him and clamoring after him hasn't been moved yet. I think that makes total sense. I think that's all Rosenthal is saying here. He's just trying to offer some explanation because guys like myself are starting to seem silly. Everyone wants this guy. We've talked specific trade pieces. Hasn't been moved yet. I don't think the Cardinals are going to get, at this point, any team's number one prospect. Not like the Cubs just gave up for Edward Cabrera, but I do think we'll end up getting at least a top 3 prospect from whatever organization we get a guy from, and probably another top 10 to go with that. At least that's my assumption. I don't always bring up other teams in my videos, but I think it's necessary for this one because the article also mentions the Chicago Cubs. And for those who checked their phones and the internet anywhere, you know the Chicago Cubs just made one of the splashier trades of this offseason. They just acquired Edward Cabrera from the Miami Marlins, trading away their number 1 prospect and the number 47 overall prospect in baseball to do so. And that's a big move. Edward Cabrera is one of those young guys who hasn't quite put it all together yet, but shows clear stuff. He is an incredible pitcher with dynamic, moving pitches and a great high-velocity fastball. And he's put up some decent stats. He had like a 3.5 ERA last year. That's not bad by any means, and especially on a Marlins team that was hot garbage. Can't blame a guy for not pitching his very best in a terrible situation. But he's clearly a guy who is now projected to be their number 2 in their rotation, right behind Matthew Boyd, who had a very good season last year and has become one of the better pitchers in baseball, at least now in this blip. But it doesn't unfortunately end there for the Cardinals. Not that we're trying to win now anyway. I'm not actually panicking about this. I just hate seeing the Cubs be good, dang it. I want them to suck at all times, regardless of whether or not we're good. The hate just runs true. I hope we all understand that. We're all on the same page, correct? Anyway, they're also in on Bregman and Bichette, is what Ken Rosenthal goes on in the same article where he regarded Donovan. And he put that Bichette and Bregman stuff out even before the Cabrera deal went down, which Rosenthal was all over making those connections as well, but the move wasn't yet official. And I think the Cabrera deal only makes the Bregman-Bichette thing make even more sense and make it even more likely. They're pushing chips in. They want to make a deal happen. It looks like the Cubs might start running the NL Central for a little bit. Take a moment of silence. Throw up in a trash bin somewhere. I'm crying right with you. I just want them to suck at all times. Anyway, can nobody win the division? Is that possible? Like, can we just have... if we can't win it, maybe can we root for the Pirates maybe? They're cute. No, I still hate them. Anyway, more news on the Cardinals front. Comes from MLB Live, which is a great follow on Twitter for those who love them. Some Twitter or X. I still mix it up these days. He's a Cardinal insider, and he had an interesting tweet out there. MLB Live has been known for putting out some pieces that are all opinion and some things that are insight. So he clearly has some insight. I don't know if this is a purely an insight piece or an opinion piece, but I think it makes sense, and it's interesting to chew on. Reading it for you guys. If the Cardinals just decided to grapple with top position level prospects, they could have had a deal done at any point. Multiple orgs have been more open to use those as their trade chips versus starting pitching. Starting pitching offers haven't been as high. We're talking top 30, top 20 hitters. I don't exactly know what he means by top 30, top 20 hitters. I'm assuming he means top 30, top 20 hitting prospects would be my assumption there. But regardless, the point of the tweet is that if the Cardinals are clearly pushing for pitching, and that's another reason why a deal hasn't been done yet. Starting pitchers have just inherently more value. If one prospect is the 50th best prospect in baseball and he's a hitter, and another one's the 51st prospect in baseball and he's a pitcher, typically the pitcher is viewed more highly. You need more of them. You have to pitch more pitchers. They're more valuable to have because you need more good ones out there. You just need more supply on your team. They're just worth more. And they have big longevity, all that jazz. So this is to say that maybe the Cardinals are pushing too hard for starting pitching, and we could expect a higher return in hitters. So I ask you guys, what would you prefer? Would you prefer the Cardinals stay tried and true on pitching, or would you rather us just kind of say, give us the hitters, give us the players, let us deal with it later? I like the idea. Brendan Donovan's the top trade chip we're going to have for a long time. And the Cardinals have not shown that they're willing to go out and spend cash on pitching. Maybe that's a Mo thing. We'll find out. Maybe it's a DeWitt thing, though. Maybe it's just an overall cash thing. Pitchers are just valuable. They cost a ton of money. And the Cardinals are not known for dropping the top end of the market in baseball. So I'm kind of in on waiting for pitching to get the deal done because that's the way you build up a successful team if you're the St. Louis Cardinals. You're not a top end of the market guy. You can't just sign away some team's number one pitcher when it's time and give them a $400 million contract. That's not where the Cardinals are. Maybe once, but tell me the last time we did it. It doesn't happen often. And so I'm kind of in on the Cardinals waiting around and getting that pitching prospect that we know we need. And I'm equating right now, I'm giving Bloom the benefit of the doubt and saying this is patience and not stubbornness. And until I'm proven otherwise, and we go on years of like a John Mozeliak-esque cycle of nonsense, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to wait for pitching. I'm not saying we're going to get somebody's top pitching prospect. For instance, the Mariners have been mentioned a lot. We're not getting Cade Anderson, but a Durangelo Sinja makes a lot of sense for both teams. I'm willing to wait for that kind of player because pitching is so expensive, and this is our best trade piece opportunity to get that at a good cost. But the Mariners mentioned for the Cardinals are that guys like Durangelo Sinja, again, a starting pitching prospect for the Mariners, mentioned by Ken Rosenthal in the article about Donovan. He does bring up that the Royals are still a team that the Cardinals are in on. But if we're more interested in hitters, that the Mariners are probably still our better option. The Mariners do have 7 top 100 prospects. 4 of them are hitters, and they seem to be more flexible in moving those guys at this time. Again, people like to keep depth, and they have a logjam at some of these middle infield positions. Some of their top prospects who just graduated out were middle infielders, and they've got a lot of them. Guys like Michael Arroyo, Colt Emerson, Lazaro Montes is actually an outfielder, but Johnny Formella, another hitter. Guys, those are top 100 prospects we could probably get right now. And maybe it's worth doing. You guys tell me. Curious your thoughts on that. Lastly, I want to talk about the Cardinals broadcast disaster, a little bit of a rebrief on the previous things we talked about, and a little bit of an update from Katie Woo. So basically, the Cardinals broadcast, the FanDuel Sports Network, is owned by a group named Main Street Sports Group. That group that is paying the Cardinals for the broadcast rights has missed a payment to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals that breaches contract, the Cardinals can now renegotiate because the contract's broken or seek new opportunities. And this wasn't one of those things. We all knew that the FanDuel Sports Network was kind of a little bit on the lower end, and the reason they became FanDuel in the first place was out of a sale and a rebranding, and we knew it was kind of in a rough spot. Katie Woo points out in her article that this was not expected by any means, and the Cardinals are scrambling a little bit to get something done, and this will impact payroll availability. Luckily, the Cardinals plan on being bad anyway this year. I'm not sure this is really going to hurt us in that sense. But the Cardinals aren't alone in this. Mainstream Sports Group is currently the providers for the Braves, the Reds, the Tigers, the Royals, the Angels, the Marlins, the Brewers, Cardinals, and the Rays, Katie Woo points out. It's a lot of teams being impacted by this. Negotiating is expected to be ended and decided very soon on if the Cardinals are staying with them and getting less money for their broadcast. That's openly been the decision, unless a buyout happens for Main Street Sports Group, which has been discussed. But right now it seems like they're going to stay and take less money, or they're going to go to MLB and have them be their provider, as the MLB is trying to get teams to move to this anyway. The MLB is willing and ready to take on the Cardinals and other teams. Katie Woo mentions in her article, they're currently already the providers of about 7 teams right now, out of similar circumstances to what the Cardinals were just in. For instance, the first 2 teams, the Diamondbacks and the Padres, Diamond Sports Group dropped, which was what used to run Bally, and they just went to MLB full-time after that and have stayed with them. And the Cardinals have said that they are willing to spend 162 games with MLB and have them streamed that way. So the Cardinals have put their chips out there. We'll see what they decide. We should know soon. And then we'll see what the fallout is in terms of broadcast quality. I'm not sure it can get a lot worse. Hopefully it's something more stable. We'll keep covering it here, though, on the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast again. My name is Andrew Teuscher. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, please. I love the community we're building. Please tell me more in the comments what you guys are thinking. I'd love to help cover it more. Thank you.